Hey y'all, Ramblin' Chris. Today we're gonna get around to finally polishing up the aluminum. And this side it's all pitted, corroded, same with the wheels and the majority of it. Whereas this side, as you saw in an earlier video, I got it all polished up. So I could use a little touch up a little bit. I mean, it's mostly a little dirty, but I can always use a nice light polish. It's hot out here, so we're gonna move around to a cooler spot. We're gonna do it back there. All right, now if we're doing just a light polish, all you really need is just some kind of aluminum polish. I mean, use whatever your favorite is. This is just what I have. And then you're just gonna use that with microfiber cloth. We'll get into that later. Now, if you gotta do something a little bit heavier, that's where you need to get into your sandpapers. Now, I got a variety of grits here. We start all the way down here, actually over here, at 220. Then we're going up to 440, 1500. Then we go up to 3000, 5000, 7000, and we'll finally finish off with the aluminum polish again. Now let's start out with the easy job. We're going to take our polish and we're just going to start to touch up some of this aluminum here that was already polished, as it's the easier job. So you're just going to take a load in your cloth. You're just going to start to rub her in just like you would any other polish. As you can see, cloth starts to turn black. If it's turning black, you know that it's polishing. If it doesn't change the black, it's not doing the job. Right now, after you got most of that wiped in, take a clean part and wipe everything you just put on there off. Then I'm going to wipe off with just the cloth in another spot just to show you the difference. Alright, now look at this difference here. Down here is what we just polished. I mean, look at that shine. And that's taking us, oh, what, 30 seconds? Whereas if you go up here, look at these areas, they shine, but it's not quite the same brilliant shine. I mean, you're never going to see as much of a difference when you have something this simple. We can do the same thing here on these forks, and we can do everything to the rest of it after we polish it up. And I'm sure though, seeing those corroded parts turning shiny is what you really want to see. Okay, so the first thing we want to do to polish all this corroded crap up is you're going to take your 220 grit. You're going to get a piece of foam or a sponge or something, and you're going to wrap that sandpaper around it so you have a nice cushy surface. That way it will conform to the surface that you're on a little bit better. And then you're just going to sand it until it's all even. You can see there's just a ton of crap coming off of here. That all has to come off. You want all this to end up even. Using the 220, the wheels are now polished. You can see it's all nice and even. Though it's certainly not shiny, but we're only on 220. Now on the forks, you can see I've gotten partially there. You can see we got a lot of these pitted areas left on these forks. But you can see these other areas, and actually have some sort of shine. It's very dull, a little closer to matte. But it's starting to even out. We're making some good progress here. Well, it started raining, so I had to continue this on another day. So I'm in a little bit different spot. See, I'm just about done with the 220. I mean, as far as it looks, I mean, yeah, it looks pretty bad. I mean, that's definitely not shiny at all. But it's not corroded, so That's positive. We're getting somewhere. Also had to take off the brake caliper because it was in the way of getting behind. So I have that just hanging up here off the bars. That way we don't pinch the line. It's pretty even now. And we're ready to move off the 220 and get started on the 400. Now this is a wet dry sandpaper, which means you can use it either wet or dry, hence the name. Wet is the better way to use it, so get yourself some soapy water and spray it down, let it soak in. And you want to get this thing really wet. Reason being, it acts as a lubricant and helps it slide smoother over your metal, which will give you a nice smoother finish. Now we're still not polished at this point, but certainly improvement. So now with your sandpaper nice and wet, you're going to go and you're also going to put down the surfaces that you're planning to sand. You're going to do this several times throughout the process. So with your sandpaper wrapped around your piece of foam and all nice and wet, you can start doing exactly what we did previously. Now when your paper gets all dirty like this, you can actually just use your water, spray it off, which will make your paper last a little longer. As it starts to get smooth, you just have to go get a different spot, rewrap it around your foam, and just continue on. We've now finished with the 400 grit. We have a form of a shine here. I mean, we're far from mere finish, and we still got a ways to go. It's already looking a lot better than it used to. We're now going to move on to 1500, follow that with 3000, 5000, 7000 grit, and finish it all off with an aluminum polishing compound. Now that we've finished up with the sandpaper, it's time to move back into the polish on this side. We're going to do exactly the same as we did in the very beginning of the video on the other side. Just doing this whole side and make it shine. Now just look at that. Look how that thing shines. If you look at the before and the after, that's quite a difference across the whole board. Looks great on that side. Looks great over here. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to continue to polish up. This here is decent. This could use a real light polishing. Whereas the rear wheel, it looks exactly like what the front looked like. So that's going to take the same amount of work that we just put in. But we're going to go ahead and we're going to get that all polished. Now you can see this cover already looks a lot better. It's not perfect, but to get it a lot closer to perfect, I'm going to have to take off the pegs and the shift lever, which while that isn't a hard job or even a long job, weather's too nice, so that's going to cut into my riding time. So that's something I'll take care of and make real nice in the winter. Now the rear wheel, you can see it still doesn't really shine, but all I actually did on the rear here is I just hit this up with some 220 grit. Reason being, I'm going to need to put some new treads on this in the next couple weeks. And most of this is pretty hard to get into. So I'm just going to do that when I take it off. Plus there's a couple little other changes going to these wheels when I do that, which you'll see when I put out that video. Now if you watched my cleaning video, you'll know that I like to coat all these metal surfaces with a nice thin coat of wax to help keep it shining for longer. And you go out and you ride just one time with one wet spot out there, you pretty much have to hit it real quick with a light polish just to get the shine back. With the wax, you can do a quick wipe and it'll hold up a little bit better. Overall, she turned out pretty good. We spent a couple hours up on the front forks and wheel. We spent half an hour, maybe up to an hour, I'm not watching the clock, on the engine, just on this side. Definitely an hour once we had the other side on. And then we spent a grand total of maybe 10 minutes on this rear wheel just to get it so it didn't have such a pitted surface on it. There's going to be some changes on this, as I mentioned. That should be coming up in a couple weeks. I may have some things going on that prevent me from editing the video to put it up for you guys. And if that happens, it probably won't be till about mid-August. But we will see. This has been Ramblin' Chris.